Hi and welcome to Minijack. Hope you liked the last episode and I hope you liked Twin Peaks. And yeah, in this episode I'm gonna talk about a little bit about Judy. No, I'm joking. I'm gonna talk about the patch you saw in the last video. And well, of course, everything, all the signal routing is done with my matrix mixer. This is a 5x5. It's active with a 2 times gain. It means that if I turn a knob all the way up, what I have out, it's twice what comes in. And I have both 1/4 inch and 3.5 millimeters jack. Is the minijack, the eurorack standard. And so this patch actually revolves around a new thing I have been working on, which is this little eurorack module here, which is actually a Raspberry Pi credit card computer running pure data. Maybe I can take it out so you can have a look. It's still in the prototype phase. As you can see, it's very punk style, but it basically it has 2 audio outs here and 5 input or outputs, control voltage ins or outs. You can decide via software if you use them as a control voltages, triggers, gates, and if it's an in or an out. And of course it has a support for, it has a USB port on the top, as you can see, and it can support a MIDI controller. In this case I'm using a Korg Nano. This is the first edition. I really love it with the scenes. And yeah, basically what is happening in the patch is that I have some melodies going on, which are, it's actually 2 melodies on 2 channels, which are in C major, as the Audrey's dance piece is, and I have the drum and bass track on tape, as I wanted the warm and kind of vintage sound of tape. And the beat on that comes from the tape is triggering my, here I have the LED triggering, you can see, and so that the digital module can be on time with the external thing. Let's turn it down for a moment. And of course, if I stop it, it stops. And what the trigger does in this pure data patch is triggering the change of the melody. Let's have a quick look at the patch in pure data. And so this is quickly the patch that is running on Raspberry Pi. Here I'm viewing it with the per data, so that we can have the nice graphic interface with the flexible patch chords, and it's just easier to see what's going on. So basically here I have all the startup controls. I have an LED going on for 3 seconds, and then here I have the wiring Pi GPIOs, which is a very nice library for the Raspberry Pi, and you can use it in pure data to receive and send out data on the general purpose inputs outputs. And here I had the main clock, but then it's all external. Here I have the clock divider. As we can see, if I put in manually the clock, I have the two half actually clock. It fires every two. Actually, we can make maybe a clock for us, like, I don't know, something like that, so that we can see it in action as if there was an external clock. And this fires every two, this one every three, every four, every five, every six, every seven, and I wired to the outputs these three here, which is the half clock speed, 1/3 and 1/5, because I like prime numbers. No, just joking, it's because it has a nice shuffle on it. And of course the other one is the main clock, what goes in goes out, so I can reuse it for other things. And it's transformed into a trigger of 200 milliseconds, so I have everything very consistent and same. And here I have some little machines to transform a bang into a 0-1 variation, which I still didn't use. And here I had the different clock divisions. And so this is the audio core. I have a sample and hold here, and wait a moment because I need to send our metro to the main clock as well. Yeah, and this is a sample and hold. I can turn on the audio. And yeah, it is basically just a noise source with sample and hold, which is going in time with the clock, and it's sending data to two different channels. And of course, even if everything is the same, the noise will not be the same, so we will have two different values, which I can use as two different channels clocked by the same thing. And here I have my thing for creating the notes, which are quantized. Here I have a scale selector, is made with a least sieve external. It's actually an abstraction. And I have different scales. In the beginning I also put a selector on the nano controller to select the scale, but then I saw that just the major scale was working good. And here I am quantizing the notes, and here they're going out and they're converted to frequencies again. And here I have the VCA, basically the internal VCA, which is fired by a clock selection. I can select which clock I want for both channels, and it fires the VCA. And this is another little object I made. So these two represent the first two faders in my controller. So if I put the fader a little bit more than halfway, I am selecting 1/3 of the clock. All the way up is 1/5, and all the way down is just the clock itself, and the same it's going here. And so that was firing the VCA, and I think that's it for the patch. It looks complicated, but it's actually all little pieces. And so basically everything is going through the Raspberry Pi, which is managing the signal routing, and some of the signal routing is actually done by two teleplexers. There are some experimental designs. One, it's with a very fine texture. It's actually part of a drawing of a very dear friend, and this is actually some, I don't know, primitive looking thing. It's supposed to look like a dinosaur skeleton, but I don't know. This one is just a panel I use with 5 mini jacks, and with a ribbon cable I break it up in my breadboard. So here in the breadboard I have the envelope follower, kind of the audio to trigger circuit, which is the one with the red LED, and you see it's being triggered by this one, by the melody, and the tape is going through a little amplifier we have here, so that I can have the exact levels that I want of triggering. I can trigger more, of course, but that's almost always on, so it's too much, and that I can have less, and when I found sweet spot, still too much. Yeah, anyways, I can control it with this volume, which is a split. I have a split cable. Some of the signal actually is duplicated. It goes into the trigger generator, and the rest goes just to the matrix mixer, which is buffered, so it's not really influencing the rest of the patch. And in this other channel I have basically a VCA, which is triggered by, in this case, by 1/5 clock division. As we saw in the patch, in the pure data patch, I have several divisions. This one at the moment, I think it's coming from here, so yeah, it's 5th. Every 5 red flashes there is a yellow one, and yeah, it's firing quite in a not regular fashion, which is what I like. And yeah, I think that's it. And no, yeah, of course the VCA, it's gating the my zoom pedal effect, which I sometimes use just to send a little bit of the melody. But if I put it in the VCA, through the VCA, I can, for example, send some of the melody to the, and it will pass through only when this thing goes. At the moment is very crazy because the trigger level is not correct. And of course I have all the clock divisions, which is full clock scale, half, third and a fifth, in the divided between the two teleplexers. So I can take my VCA input and rub it on the teleplexers and catch different divisions. But what's more interesting, I can trigger feedback if I put it. This is the input to output of the zoom, and of course I'm not hearing anything because my VCA is free, but and it's of course I can play with the teleplexers, and basically anywhere I end up with the tip of my jack, there will be a different clock division, but it will always be on the beat and on time in a way. Let's put it back on the 5th division. And of course I can change distortion type here. Sometimes the volumes levels can go pretty wild. Then there was, of course, the big dub reverb send at the end. And also maybe I want to talk a little bit about the noise core, which I am using it at the beginning. It sounds like this in the beginning, and it's just a noise with a very tight bandpass filter, and I'm changing the Q until it goes like this and out, then with the reverb in the outboard. But what's interesting, maybe, it's the noise I'm using in the end part of the video, which is the same thing, but with a noise. With this control here I can switch from normal noise or this other noise, which is a sample and held noise, and here I can select the frequency of the sample and hold, so you have some scattered impulses, not so scattered actually, but of different volumes, basically in different clicks. And of course I can change filter. The filter is also tuned in C, so it's in tune with the rest. I can have these little impulses very filtered or just raw, but yeah, what counts is how it's then used with the matrix mixer and the rest of the effects. And that's how I'm using it. It's just going through the multi-effect, which has a little bit of delay inside, and the filter is tuned in C, yes. And well, I think that's it. I will continue developing this module. At a certain point I will definitely make some PCBs for myself. If anybody is interested, I am willing to share. And maybe I didn't mention it, it's based on Raspbian Stretch, which is the last version of the operative system for the Raspberry Pi at this moment. And it was not easy to set up with Pure Data Extended. I had to install all the extensions manually, and of course I set up the startup thing. If anybody is interested, I might even put it on GitHub for download, just a ready image for loading Pure Data patches. And yeah, it's a very compact module. It's just 3 HP at the moment, which is not very standard. I think next thing I'll do, I will expand it to 4 HPs and make room for a second row of 7 jacks, which will be multi-purpose. And maybe I will get rid of Ethernet port or some USB port on the back and make room for a little 7-segment display or and a button or a switch. And probably even I could think about using a little sound card, like the GPIO sound cards, to have more inputs and maybe more outputs, sorry, and maybe some inputs. But I will see. At the moment I'm really happy with it. I can put some patches, Pure Data patches, inside the workflow, which fits really well with the matrix mixer, managing all the signals and some other weird stuff going on. And with physical modeling and circuit simulation, it's very useful to also experiment for future development of analog stuff. And well, yeah, that's for the future. Let me know what you think about it, and if you're interested. And so that's it for the moment. In the next episode there will be more things coming up. There will be a huge VCA matrix, and then a huge 10x10 matrix mixer with piezo outputs, and then a smaller VCA matrix but with the flexi VCAs, which maybe you saw in a sneak peek some videos ago. And well, I think that's it. If you liked this video, do not forget to give me a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more videos.